Welcome to Bring Out Your Badass Self, a movement to break your negative thoughts and habits and instead focus on building each other up and encouraging fearless authenticity.
Each week, we will get vulnerable and share experiences alongside our guests and audience. Come rediscover your inner badass self.
Good morning. Mic check, mic check.
Good morning, badasses. Oh,
Lance is changing his background. I know Lance has changed his background 3 times, and all of a sudden now we're at the motel hotel.
The Rosebud Motel.
The Rosebud Motel from Schitt's Creek.
Oh my gosh. So good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this Friday morning. And as you join, please say hello to us. Let us know that you have arrived. As you can see, it is another time for an Unfiltered Perspective Panel. And I thought that we might start off with having you guys do a little bit of an introduction while everybody is saying hello. So Megan, since you're up at the top right, do you want to start first?
No, but I will. Good morning. My name is Megan Shapiro. I am here by virtue of Lance asking me to come, so I appreciate the opportunity to share the morning with you lovely people. Quick intro, I am a full-time practicing construction attorney, and in my free time, as little of that as I have, I train construction leaders on how to increase profits through proactive risk management. I think the thing that makes me most qualified to be here today, though, is the fact that I am a lifelong sufferer of imposter syndrome.
I love the intro. Thank you. Lance, do you want to give a little bit of intro to yourself for those that don't know you?
Yeah, Lance Furuyama, longtime contractor. Since I was a kid, I was always full of shit when I was a little boy. So it's standing in your truth was a hard thing as a kid. Don't know why, just was always getting into trouble, but now I'm all about it, all about the truth.
You can't handle the truth.
You can't.
That's awesome. So I'm looking forward to getting into today's topic. And so before we get there, maybe a little bit of, like what's been going on this week? How was this week for everyone?
This was a doozy for me. Not as I've had a crazy week, right? This one wasn't as bad, but I will tell you, last night I had to take a jigsaw to one of our steps in order to remove a cat because the cat got stuck inside of our house because we're remodeling our bathroom. And I don't know, the cat somehow must have got into the bathroom, and before he was putting down some of the plywood, the subfloor, the cat must have got in there, and we didn't notice until we were going to bed, and we were hearing meowing, and we couldn't figure out where the fuck it was. And we have a long stairway, and because we live in tri-level. The fuck? Okay, we live in a tri-level. And so we have these 3 little steps or 4 little steps in a long hallway. There's little steps all over our house because of the tri-level thing. And we were literally this cat, we felt crazy. We were we were opening up doors and closets, trying to figure out where the cat was. And we were just standing at these steps and we're pretty sure the cat's inside these stairs right here. And sure enough, it was. And the kids were freaking out. We went into the bathroom to try to get, some of the subfloor up and call the cat back. Cause we know that's how, the cat's never done this before. And there is an open wound in our home. So it had to have come from there. Right. So we're in there trying to call a cat. It's not coming back. And the kids are crying, and I finally just grabbed the contractor's jigsaw and cut a hole into the bottom of the bottom step, and of course that scared the shit out of the cat, so it ran and hid for a long time, but but like a half hour after everyone went in their own, places, the cat comes like stumbling out like, hey guys. Like,
That is crazy.
I know. I know. So now when the contractor shows up today, I'm gonna have to be like, oh, you also have to fix this step because
So what happened was
so what happened was I'm glad your jigsaw was here.
well, we got lots of people joining us today, so let's say hello. So Carmen coming in from California. Good morning, my favorite beautiful badasses. We have Leslie. I think she's in New York, so good morning all. We have Josh joining us. I think he's joining us I think it might be through Megan or Lance, actually. And so he said hello from Denver. So I think, Josh, this might be I can't remember if you've joined us or not. So let us know whether this is your first time joining us, and welcome. Carrie's joining us. She's from my location, Atlanta. Greetings and salutations. And LinkedIn user. So we can't see you, but someone from Charlotte. So do you know who that is?
Oh, it's Noelle.
Noelle.
Noelle never shows up. Yeah, Noelle never shows up.
And Buddy said good morning. And Eric, good badass morning. We got Stephanie coming in. Good morning as well. And I think this is her first time joining us. So welcome.
Welcome.
And then, we saw Josh earlier. You were showing up. And so
I saw saying
hi to Josh. Yeah.
And gotcha. They were saying hello to each other. And then Bruce said morning, badass. And we have people going back and forth saying hello. We also have Stephanie coming in.
Hello. That's so she does it.
Hello. And then Cindy, you're in Nashville now. She used to be actually out west. And so good morning. She used to not be able to attend. She was like, you guys are so early my time.
Yes.
So we got a crowd today. So I'm excited about starting this conversation and hearing what our audience thinks and what our guests think. So let's jump into it. So we wanted to talk about standing in your truth. And so I thought it might be appropriate just to first start off with, what does standing in your truth mean to you personally? And Lance, since you were the one that came up with the topic, I'm going to put you on point and have you state what you think standing in your truth means to you personally.
Yeah, my interpretation is, I say stand on business when I talk to people, right? If you're going to say it and own it. Don't say it when the person leaves the room and do those stupid little faces like, do you hear what they said? Like, if that's how you feel, say it, own it, and have a dialogue and have a conversation. Nothing gets me crazier than somebody pretending to speak the truth, but they're just speaking their version of it. And if you can't say it and own it in front of others, that's not the truth. That's a bullshit version of it.
Yes.
Loving that.
Yeah.
Megan, anything else to add to that?
I mean, I definitely agree with Lance on that one for sure. And I think mine's just maybe a little bit of a different flavor of that. And I think it aligns with you when we were talking before. I for me, it's all about the authenticity. And I have a very polarizing personality. People either love me or hate me. And for a lot of years in my life, I tried to sort of tone that down, right? I wanted to be liked by everybody. And that led to me not being super authentic at all times. Sometimes I would be, of course, but others I wouldn't be. And that made me feel inauthentic and unaligned. And turning 40 was like super powerful for me. And I finally realized, like, wait, do we cuss on this one? We do, right? You guys,
we do, yeah.
Okay, good. Because I have a potty mouth. When I turned 40, I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Like, I am who I am, and I don't have to be for everybody, and that's okay. Right. And the people that I'm not for, I was never going to be for them anyway. Like, even being inauthentic and trying to be what they want me to be was never going to work. And so fuck it. Like, my people will be for me, and I won't be for everybody, and I'm okay with that. And so that's what it is. That's what standing in my truth is for me.
I love that.
I love it. I think for a lot of women, at least ones that I've been surrounded with that are like older than me, you know, and they're maybe in their 60s or 70s. I think that sometimes just aging gives you, you know, that sense, like, you know, just as you get older and you are looking around and you're like, you know what, like, I'm good just as I am, you know. But I love when, and I love how we're talking about it now more than ever, I think, about being authentic and just being who you are. You know, I think that's huge, and it's going to like make it easier for younger people to just, you know, not fall into a trap of like imposter syndrome, right? You know, like just to be who the fuck they are.
I love that. For me, I always felt like I had two personalities, one that was at work, one that was at home. And over the years, even on social media, I kept them very separate for many years. And I finally got to a point where I was watching different people and I was like, you know what? Why am I keeping these two personalities separate? And it was really because I didn't feel comfortable and welcomed. And a lot of times we don't feel safe in being in our truth sometimes. But a lot of that is also on us to just say, fuck it, and start showing people. And I have found that the more that I end up showing my authentic self, the more I actually give others permission to be themselves as well. And so I think it becomes even more, the more you are surrounding yourself with people that are themselves. And I think it's also self-reflection, like standing in your truth is also self-reflecting and asking yourself about the things that might trigger you that are not actually bringing out your true self. And, you know, understanding the things that you still need to be able to grow. That to me is what standing in your truth is questioning yourself in, am I truly being authentic to me, or am I doing something out of fear or out of my ego versus finding my true authentic self?
Like people pleasing, right? Like I didn't think of that in that way, but it is, right? Like people pleasing, that is not being your true self. That's acting a certain way that you think you need to act because you want the people around you to be pleased, right?
Or it's getting defensive because your ego is trying to protect you. So sometimes we have thoughts in our minds, and with those thoughts, sometimes if someone else says something, we think, oh, well, if what they say is true, what I think must not be true. When in actuality, sometimes they can both be true, or sometimes I need to maybe reevaluate my thoughts and question how it is that I'm actually presenting myself, or what it is that I'm doing, to make sure that I'm not doing it out of just protecting my ego as well.
Yeah.
So I think what you're talking about is the opposite of, you know, where it's like you say whatever, you know, you think other people want. Sometimes people do the defensive side because it's protecting themselves instead.
Right.
Now,
that makes sense.
Sarah, you said you had a personal side and then your work side, and that made me think of like phone voice, right? Hello. It's like, what the fuck? Who's that? But, now, did you just temper that work side back, or like, or I don't even know what I'm trying to ask. Like, did you put it to rest, or is it still alive in a smaller capacity?
Oh no, I'm fully myself in both capacities now. But for me, for many years, I tapped down my personal side because there's a lot to me. And one of the things one of my friends always said, and I may have said this before, is she said, "You're like an onion. The more I peel back, the more I learn about you." And there's just like, the singing side of me. There's the, the theater side of me. There's the I've shot guns, side of me. There's the race car, driving side of me. There's the risk taking side of me. There's like all these different types of sides. There's the compassionate side of me. And people would only see like the work side of Sarah. And not see anything else. It was the professional, let's, get the job done. It was the hard ass. It was the, getting the job done type of Sarah, where they didn't see the other sides of Sarah.
She actually, if you can imagine this, and when it comes to work, she actually is more inclined to like not chit chat or not, like to just get it done. It's hard to imagine that in a way, but her, her drive is so driven that like sometimes the fun, would disappear, a little bit. And she kind of had to like evaluate, like, is this really who I am? Yeah. No, I like to smile and have fun while I'm getting shit done. Right?
Yeah. Does that make sense, Lance?
Yep, makes sense to me.
Do you relate to that?
No, I've been crazy my whole life. It's
That's awesome.
But it makes me think of like a drill sergeant, right? They go home and put on their Christmas pajamas and kick their feet up. Like, how weird is that?
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Well, we have lots of comments coming in, and so let me go to those real quick before I spin us down another lane. So Gloria's coming in. She said, "Good morning, fam." Bruce said there are certain people you want to offend, by the way.
I love you, Bruce.
And so let's see. Carrie says, in the words of my dearly departed mom, fly your freaking flag. People are going to judge you either way, so go be you.
Yes. Fly your freak flag.
Josh says, listening and walking around, love standing in who you are. Find where your strengths intersect your passion. And that's the where I find where I stand, and people that want, that attract, and people that don't repel naturally.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. And I think that really goes back to, I think maybe it was Megan, you were saying that earlier, is as you're going to attract the people that are similar. It's worrying less. As Bruce said, there are certain people you want to offend. It's really about attracting the people that are in alignment and are on the same, I call it the same vibration.
Mm-hmm. So for I think baby just being neurodivergent or having some mental health stuff that was a part of this, but for me, for many years, I had like a separate work personality and a home personality. But they weren't like completely separate. What I realized is that like work, because it was all processes for me, they were like rules that I could follow, and I was super effective at work. So like if somebody got upset or like emotional in a work situation, I was really good at handling it because like I had thought through that prior. I had like laid out the process, like because I was in sales or because I was in, dealing with customers, there's conflicts naturally. So like I would prep for it, right? I would kind of like know what my plan would be. And then there were many years where I did not feel as effective in my personal life around emotions or awareness or triggers or shit like that. And I would be like super annoyed with myself. Like, I can do it at work. I don't understand what I'm not getting. Like, and then for me, it was like learning this, like I was able to finally realize, oh, okay. So if I like wrap some process around this in my personal life, like I'm not robotic or systematizing things, but if I think in the same way, like if I can, think about situations that could occur and how I might handle them, then I will be more effective. So that was huge for me. And that was more recent. Maybe like 10-ish, 15 years ago, really struggled with whether I was going to be out in the workplace, right? Like if I was just going to be, hey, I've got a wife. And I struggled with that for a long time because part of me was like, I don't care who you sleep with, right? Simpsons. The other part of me was like, you know, I should just be able to be who I am, and it shouldn't be an issue. Like they shouldn't care, you know. And so there was lots of back and forth about that in my like late 20s, early 30s. But like by like 32 or 33, I was like, fuck it, you know, like I'm super gay and it's not gonna be hidden anymore. I can't help it, you know. You know, I live in Wisconsin, so you know it's not like the hippest place in the fucking world. You know, it's Wisconsin, so it took some time, but I was able to like later hear from people that were inspired by that. They were like, it was so cool, you know. Like I was in a couple of professional organizations at the time, and people were like, thank you for saying you have a wife. You know, I'm a lesbian and I've never felt comfortable saying that. And I was like, wow, I didn't even know. So that's my little story of coming into my truth in two different ways.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I love that. And so maybe taking off of that, other people and even the audience, what are maybe some experiences that you have had that maybe it was challenges or resistance when trying to express your authentic self, and maybe how did you overcome it? And so any thoughts on that, Lance or Megan?
You know, I think for me, the challenge to overcoming it has always been me. I have sort of made a lot of assumptions and attributed a lot of thoughts and feelings and ideas and limitations to other people that never existed in them. It only existed in my own head, right? And so I would make decisions about what I was willing to share with the world based on what I decided the world thought. And as I sort of grew into myself and got more comfortable being more authentic and expressing all of the sides of me, to your point, Sarah, there's a lot of weird sides to me too. And I've been hesitant to sort of show some of those sides in the past. And as I've gotten more comfortable doing that, I've only gotten praise and acceptance, and perhaps that speaks to I think that when you finally do choose to stand in your truth and be your authentic self, I think you attract the people that are going to support that naturally. And so I'm surrounding myself now with people that are naturally supportive and positive regardless of what it is. And so maybe that's part of it, right? But it's like all of my worst fears, all of the things that made me feel like I had to hide these parts of me or not share these parts of me or suppress these parts of me, none of that ever actually came to fruition. Like none. I'm struggling to really think of any time in recent memory even in my adult life or in my professional career where I have chosen to be vulnerable and share something like that and it has gone badly. Just doesn't happen because it's all in my own head. It really is.
Right. I love that. I think like that's so true, right? We make up our perceptions are our reality, right? So we decide kind of what the world around us, how the world is viewing us. We make that decision inside of our head already, right? But I love that awareness of, you know, like it's all in my head. It's, you know, if you can find your way through that, there's so much comfort and freedom, right? Like in realizing, you know, no, that's not the case. I love that, Megan.
Lance?
Oh, hello.
Sarah's waiting.
I was just added silence just to let them breathe.
I thought I was watching a podcast. I forgot that I was a part of this. So there's a couple of parts to it, right? The first, the majority of my adult life I've lived, I call it as flour. Flour is an ingredient that you need that contributes, but nobody just eats flour. Hopefully, they're not just eating that. And now I'm a little bit more spice, right? I got a little more to me. And I think it's because I realized that no matter how much I try to be neutral, you know, there are thousands of versions of you walking around in this world. People have different interactions with you, different perspective, different inputs from other people about you before they even meet you, and you can't control that. So, but just by being flower and kind of keeping myself down, it wasn't accomplishing what I was even trying to do. So now I'm a pepper. Take it or leave it, whatever the case is. But at least I'm putting out what I know or how I feel, and that changes daily, right? Sometimes I'm pretty chill. Sometimes I'm a firecracker. But whatever it is that day is what it is, and how you receive it, I'll give you the space to deal with that however you want to deal with it. But I'm not gonna adjust everything I do to accommodate everybody else.
Yeah. So we got some other people that are joining us. So I'm just going to say hello real quick. So Megan or Lance, do you know this person? So this is a new person for us.
Gonzalo.
Yeah. And so welcome, Gonzalo Silva. I'm assuming that's how you pronounce it. And so so Josh said Wisconsin black.
Josh, I can tell you so many Wisconsin stories, of course.
And is it Rocio?
Rocio.
Luna, she said, hello, Noelle here. In case you can't see my name on the chat. And Renee has a long comment. So I spent years trying to just blend in until someone told me what made me great at being an owner of a general contracting company was being a woman and my female traits. Sounds dumb and simple, but that was a wake-up moment for me.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I love that. For me, in this particular question, challenges that I have dealt with, I feel like one of the things that was said to me by my neighbor, we were playing this game, and it's where you have to answer questions about each other, and it really has you be more vulnerable. And one of the questions that I can't remember what the question was, but his answer was, you are the most self-aware person that I know. And I was like, whoa, what does he mean? You know, like, what does he mean by that? And he's like, you know who you are and you don't give a shit what other people think, ultimately is what he said.
Yeah.
And with that, one of the things that I have had to deal with, the challenges or the resistance, is in being my authentic self. There are people that have told me, it's not my own imagination, it's them telling me that I intimidate them. And for me, this is one of the things that I struggled with was, okay, well, you know, what does that mean? Is that me, you know, authentically, you know, intimidating people? Is that my non-authentic self intimidating people? So like I spent some time really thinking about what that meant. And what I ended up figuring out was it had to do more with them, that it was their insecurities of the things they were still growing and learning that were triggering them. And I had to really identify that shouldn't change how it is that I am. Like I am truly being my authentic self, and by being, you know, a strong female with opinions, but also willing to listen to other people, and because both of these people, you know, I am willing to take the time to be able to listen to other people's perspectives. But if you're not willing to share them because you're intimidated, I can't really do anything about that. I can try to encourage you and tell you, hey, I'm more than willing to listen. But unless they take the time to have the strength to have that conversation, I really can't do anything about that. So for me, I had to sort of let it go. So for me, that was a challenge that I had to deal with, to try to identify, is that me or is that person? Is it something, you know, because over the years, I've tried to like soften myself in a lot of ways. And I have had people that have said that they've noticed a difference in that. But I think a lot of it has to do with also being more open and asking questions, and allowing space sometimes. Those are some of the things that I've reflected on that I can do as a person.
Yeah, definitely. I think when people are intimidated or by someone else, a lot of times it is a reflection of something that's truly going on with the person, right? Not with
Yes.
who or what they are intimidated by. And so I think there's like, there's a comment from Noelle, if you scroll up a little bit, from 848, where she this to really truly stand in your truth, you have to know what the hell your truth is, right? Like, so you have to do some soul searching. You have to be able to check in with yourself. And you know,
this one,
yeah. She says, I find it helps to get away from the noise, check in with myself, do some soul searching to ask myself how I am feeling, what I do that I like versus what I don't like to do, and take some time to do what I want to do instead of what I have to do, because that to-do list is never ending. And I think, part of that comment is exactly what you were saying, is that, you have to know how you're feeling and honor that versus worrying about what everybody else is feeling or perceiving.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'd like to go on to another question of, have you noticed a difference in your relationships with others when you are being your true self versus when you suppress your true feelings or beliefs? Lance, what do you think about that? Are there times where you have suppressed yourself and with others that you don't have to do that? What is the difference between those?
Well, I think I want to talk more about the part about the difference in your relationships. I've found that the more vocal and opinionated I've been, the more people have tried to manipulate me.
Ooh.
Because they see me as a megaphone. And Jesse talked about that once in one of his streams with with Jen. And now I'm this voice that's not afraid to say stuff, and they'll feed me shit in my ear and say, "Hey, they're really not standing up for the guys," or this and that. And I didn't observe that myself. I was there. I didn't have that same feeling, but now it's in there. And all of a sudden I'm hypersensitive to everything. And I'm like, hey, we need to do this. We need to do that. And I'm like, wait, that's not my truth. That's somebody else's. What the fuck just happened? And I'm having to be really careful about it because I'm a protector by nature. And now I'm like this baby rattlesnake who doesn't know how to control his venom. And it's just, I have to be careful. Is how my relationships have changed.
So are you saying that in situations people saw you as having a voice, and so then they would put something in your ear to get you to do these things on their behalf?
Megaphone.
Yeah.
Are these people you trust? Like, 'cause I had struggled with that a few years ago. Like I really trusted my parents. I had a really good relationship with them. They were pretty solid parents. And there were times when I was really struggling in my 20s and 30s where I was trying to figure out, what I wanted. And I trusted their advice so much that I kind of took it and made it my own. And when I was basically kind of regurgitating their stuff, right? Instead of it being really coming from me. So I struggled with that when it came to people that I trust. And I didn't feel like I didn't feel manipulated by it, but I felt like I needed to take their advice and figure out what the hell I needed, what the hell I wanted to do, right? But maybe you're talking, Lance, in a work situation where somebody is really they see this and oh, this is my door opening. So if I funnel this stuff into his ear, maybe it'll get further. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. But yours is that's a lot deeper than what I was thinking. It's that's something to really reflect on. But yeah, mine is more transactional work stuff and people with agendas that have too much to lose by saying it themselves. So they'll just have me parrot what they said because I thought
I was going to ask you that. Do you think that, because I tend to find, because I'm willing to speak up, a lot of times people will also tell me things because they know that I'm willing to speak up. It sounds like you're in the same type of situation, that sometimes people are afraid to speak up because of how then that might be perceived, or the light that it might put them in. And I'm constantly like, you know, if you guys believe this, then you have to speak up too. It can't just be me. And so for me, I've really made a switch. Like, nope, I need other people speaking up about the topic. Like, I'm not going to be the only person having this conversation. If you guys feel this way as well, then you need to let your voices be known.
Mm-hmm. All right, I'm learning.
Yeah.
Megan, what do you think?
I mean, I'm super protective too. I think it's part of my career choice, right? And I love Lance, so I'm still back here mad, right? I'm like, you're manipulating Lance, like let me at him, right? So I'm kind of still like, I'm way back there still. So I'm trying to like turn off my, I don't know, my protective brain and re-engage in the conversation as opposed to like I'm gonna fight somebody. But yeah, I think back to the original question, for me, I think I'm able. So I struggle with being vulnerable just by nature. I'm a Scorpio. I'm secretive. Like I'm like true through and through, true Scorpio, right? So I struggle with being vulnerable anyway. I have certainly had experiences, to your point, Cate, with people that I trusted deeply, who took advantage of that trust and for their own purposes benefited from instilling self-doubt in me for a very long time in very nefarious ways that I did not see until actually pretty recently. And so it's like to take somebody that's already averse to being vulnerable, couple that with the people that I was vulnerable with taking advantage and to use Lance's word, manipulating it. And it's a real struggle. And when I am able to push through that, and I am in therapy, I'm working through it. I'm a huge fan of therapy. When I am able to push through that, the rewards are like boundless. It's almost like, and I'm guessing, Cate, that this was probably your experience as well, since you brought it up. It's like when people you trust are the ones that do that, it's really, really destabilizing and feeds into what I was talking about earlier, which is this sort of idea that like it's kind of all in my head anyway. And so when I do put myself out there, particularly with new people, which are arguably safer, right? Because it's like, well, they're new, I'm not invested in them yet. So if it doesn't go well, then like I didn't have much to lose. But it's upending my expectations. And so it's like it's destabilizing in the opposite direction. It's like, oh my God, wow, this person that I like don't really even know all that well is like somehow suddenly my biggest cheerleader. Like, what? How did we, what's going? Yeah, I was thinking of you, Lance. I was thinking of Jesse, Rocio, Jen. I'm thinking, right. I'm thinking of some of these people that it's like they're internet strangers, right? And they're in some ways they're like my biggest cheerleaders. And it's like, wait a minute, maybe there's something to the idea of the risk is worth the reward in terms of being more vulnerable, putting yourself out there. And I think, again, to bring the whole conversation full circle, I think some of the wisdom that comes with age is sort of a better ability to let the negative go. So like when it's not rewarding, when it doesn't pay off to be vulnerable, it's easier to sort of shed that part, right? It's like, okay, well, that person's not for me. And that's okay. Surround myself with the people that are for me, the people that are my cheerleaders, that don't mind that I say fuck every other word, that like how strong of a personality that I have, like you wonderful women. I'm also a pretty strong, opinionated, independent woman, and I'm not really afraid to say it. And we're all those, right? And that intimidates a certain set of people, as you both, I'm sure, know. And like, okay, that's fine. Like, why have I spent so much time trying to win them over? I didn't need to do that. I don't care if they like me. I don't like them. So why do I care if they like me? So, I'm rambling a little bit now, so I'm gonna stop talking, but that's sort of my thought on the relationship aspect of it.
I love it. Just so you know, I'm a Scorpio too. And so I think that's why I relate to you as I see your posts and things like that. And so I used to be very secretive and things like that. Now I'm like, I'm full out there. Like, you know, like
Open book.
yeah, I'm an open book. Yesterday we did a question on our account management team. It was my time to lead. I have it rotate between people. And my question yesterday was, tell us something that no one on the call knows about you. And I had a hard time finding something that nobody knew about me. I was
That's
like,
awesome.
you know, that was my question, but it's I have found that the more that I'm out there, and it's interesting because I still hear some people that will be like, oh, like you shouldn't share all your personal and private things. You need to have things that are private to you. And I have just found the opposite, that the more that I share about myself, the good, the bad, the ugly, like all of it, the more people actually start to relate to you. And they're like,
Yeah.
oh, she makes mistakes. Oh, she, you know, she realizes she needs to grow. You know, it's like all of these types of things that the more, you know, oh, she had shit that happened to her when she was little, you know, like all of a sudden people are like, oh, you know, they start to
Right.
relate to you instead of you, you know, masking these things and trying to look like this perfect person online or in person and all of these types of things. That's when people really, it's all the shit that you deal with and the vulnerability that people start to really connect.
Yes.
I agree.
For sure. There is a couple of things that I wanted to circle back to that both of you said. Before I forget, is the stranger thing. You know, like that is so real. Like, right? Because when you meet a new friend, right, a new person, you have this like opportunity to be like, okay, you know, I'm gonna be my real self, or I'm going to like define this relationship, because there's no baggage from growth, right? You weren't with that person as you were growing and changing, so they don't know, you know, all of that. So I totally, that resonates with me. I get that. Megan, I'm in this phase where I'm like, I have enough friends. So I don't have capacity for more. Like you, I'm sure you're awesome. And yeah, I'm awesome. But like my cup is full. But what I will say is when I I strategically try out new boundaries on strangers. So like I get uncomfortable to tell like people I know something. Like this is a perfect example. Like I've realized that I don't really like I love to touch if people like my love language is touch, right? So I love to like hug and touch people if they want to be touched, right? But I don't like being touched by other people. So it's very strange. Like I like to be the toucher, but not to be touched, right? Lance, I saw you be like that. That's how I am too, right? So like it has to be totally consensual and it has to be kind of on my terms. But in Wisconsin, where everybody drinks all the time, I will find myself in and I don't really drink and go to bars, but I love live music. So I find myself in those situations often, right? And I decided to just start telling people, because once people start drinking, they think that like they can touch you, you know, and not just like sexually, there's plenty of that, but even just like, you know, rub up against you like, oh my God, I love your tattoo, and like just touching it or whatever they're doing, you know,
Yeah.
or as they're, you know, and so I have started just saying, you know, I don't really want to be touched. Like, please don't touch me. And people have a really like odd reaction, but like the ones I like the most are like, oh, no problem. Yeah. Okay, cool. Glad to know. You know, that's how I would be. But like, it's very, very funny. Some of the people get super offended. And then it'll spark up a conversation, and then I'll start talking to like a group of people like about it. And it's been very funny over the last like 6 months, me like testing out this boundary on strangers.
I love that. How do you feel when people actually respect what it is that you want?
It feels great in both instances. Like, you know, it feels great when somebody respects it. It's the in-between feels a little weird when somebody gets weird about it. And then I have also enjoyed the few times that somebody got like mad. I also enjoyed that. And because it was hilarious. Like this guy was talking to, he was just pretty drunk, I think, but I didn't know that, but he was like, I thought we were friends. And I was like, we just met, like.
What's my birthday?
yeah, that kind of, so the one guy was like, he was like mad. And it's like, okay, buddy. And, that was really hilarious as well. So, but
the entitlement to think that that they have the right to touch you and that they get to be mad if you don't want to be touched. Like,
right.
Oh my God.
Maybe and why is weird to say that, but it, I get it. But I just decided instead of nervous laughing, I will just say what I really mean, and I'll still nervously laugh around it. But there are times where I've said to people, I know I'm laughing, but this still really, I don't want you to do this, even though I'm laughing about it.
Well, it sounds like maybe we should have you guys back and we should talk, because we have our next conversation is actually about consent. So we're going to talk about this topic next week. So come back and join us as we talk about that. So I want to pull up some of the comments that have come in. And sorry, it's so big. I was told by a previous employer that I was good at what I was doing, but that I probably wouldn't amount to much if I left their company. What? So I left. I'm currently next in line for a safety director role. Basically, I shut down that negativity. Eagles soar with eagles. I love that. Yes. And Kim is coming in. She said, good morning, badasses. Maya said, oh my gosh, what? How did I almost miss this episode? Some of my favorite badasses on today. And she said, gah, Cate, same.
I think that was about I have enough friends.
That's so funny.
I start I feel guilty that I'm not as good of a friend to the friends I have, I just, or my family, I have great brothers and cousins that I barely connect with, and then I accumulate more friends. And I'm like, wait, I gotta pay attention to the ones I have. It's like when you're running a business and oh yeah, I could take all the new revenue. Yeah, come on. But you're not taking care of your current customers. That's how I'm starting to feel about it. If I give you time, then I'm not giving, my cousin time, and I miss my cousin.
Well, we've talked about this a little bit, but I want to dive in a little bit more. How do you handle criticism or judgment from others when you do express your authentic self? And I'd be curious what the audience thinks too. So, criticism or judgment from others when you express your authentic self. Anybody have any experiences with that?
I never get criticized. I think, I think for me, it depends on the source of the criticism or judgment. If it's somebody that I already have a pre-existing relationship with, or I thought we were close and they are expressing that, obviously that's a lot harder to take. It makes me, it pushes it back on me of oh, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm doing maybe there is something weird about me, right? If it's somebody if it's a stranger or, an internet stranger, or it's somebody that I don't necessarily have a pre-established relationship with, or I don't necessarily personally care about all that much, I really don't care at this point in my life. At this point, that's my big caveat at this point. But yeah, it's way harder if it's somebody that I like or trust. But fortunately, that doesn't really happen much, because if it does, they probably are not people I like or trust for very long, right? Okay, well, if I'm showing you a part of me and you're being critical or judgmental of it, and that's who I am, then this was not what I thought it was. And so the relationship necessarily changes going forward after that point, because again, I'm at this point in my life, I'm not going to change who I actually am. I obviously like my interests, or they wouldn't be my interests. So if I've shared that with you, you're not receptive to it, then maybe we're not going to be as close as maybe we were.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Do you guys hear the criticism or judgments directly? Because a lot of times I don't. I hear it through other people, right? Like, somebody will say like, "Oh, I think they think you're too much," or like I don't necessarily hear it directly from people.
Can I just jump in really quick? Like, can we stop telling people that they're too much?
Right.
Can we
Agreed.
just stop doing that? I hate that so. Oh my God. Like, that really gets me. Like, we need to just stop everybody who's listening in the whole world. Stop telling people they're too much. If they're too much for you, just don't be around them. But stop telling them they're too much. That's a you problem, not a them problem.
Right.
Sorry.
Tell us how you really feel.
Yeah.
No, it's
the
so
way I
true.
look at it is people that think someone else is too much, it just means that they haven't truly found who they are, because this person makes them feel small. And that's something that they need to deal with internally and figuring out more about themselves. If someone else makes you, if they're too much, then you don't feel like you're enough.
Right. Now, Breeze brings up a really great point that we should pivot to where, there's a difference between like true legitimate criticism that is like meant to help you, or, but that has to happen in a trusted exchange most of the time, right? Like you have to, you can't criticize someone without them. Like, if you want it to be helpful, they have to be engaged. They have to be willing to accept that. Otherwise, it's just unsolicited.
Yeah, I will say that Cate and I have a really good relationship in this, that sometimes Cate will try to take on too much. And I'm like, Cate, okay, let's evaluate. Do you really have time to be able to do this? So I do it in more of a, like, let's self-reflect type of situation. She's like, oh yeah, I probably shouldn't take that on. It's like the taking on friends. She takes on too much sometimes at work. And I'm like, Cate, do you have time to do that? Like, is that going to interfere with what it is your main goals and the things that you're doing?
Or your job. Don't do other people's jobs. Do your own job, Cate.
Do your own job, Cate. But I try to do it more in like questions, like, hey, let's self-reflect a little bit versus criticizing someone. And Cate does the same thing with me. She's like, all right, I'd like for us to look at this in a different way or different perspectives. So bear with me, and then she tells me whatever her thoughts are. And I'm like, okay, and so I self-reflect. So I think that for me, criticism, constructive criticism is best done with asking reflective questions. In really understanding each other's perspectives. That's been one of the best ways that I have found to be able to do that. What do you guys think?
Oh, me. That's right.
It's you.
I'm not just watching. That's right.
Come on, Homer.
Oh! Hey, on Fridays we wear black.
No, black.
Yeah, I think this whole topic is kind of a weird one for me. I think this has all been recent for me. This has all just been over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it is giving people the space to digest, especially people that I've known for a long time, to digest what I'm saying, because it's new to them, right? It's new to me, it's new to them. And we've had a very long relationship of me just kind of sitting in the back going, that shit ain't gonna work, and just not saying anything or not doing anything. And for me to be so vocal now, it's a lot. Not too much. I get it. But when I've set the tone and set an expectation for decades, and all of a sudden I'm telling people, hey man, you need to do more, you need to push yourself, it's a lot. And I've had to kind of throttle back because we're not all at we're not running the same race. And I think instead of, I don't look at it as criticism, but people have told me like, hey man, I'm good. Like, I don't really need all of that.
Well, and I think, you might have, let me clarify a couple of things. So whenever we think about criticism and judgment, sometimes that's also self-criticism and self-judgment. Do you think that part of what you've been dealing with is also related to that as well?
Not as much. I just think I
Okay.
didn't really give anybody fair warning, and it's just like, hey, this is the new me. Allow me to reintroduce myself, and they're like, what the fuck? This is not the guy that I've known for years. Like,
Yeah.
Wow.
I
so they're
lost.
happy, but it's also a lot to deal with.
Yeah. That makes so much sense, Lance.
Yeah.
I experienced that. I lost a 20-year friendship. I had to kind of end up walking away because I kind of came into my truth, and that person didn't grow with me. You know, and that's not my fault, but it resulted in a lot of frustration and anger. You know, they were frustrated that I was changing, and I was frustrated that they weren't. You know, and we ended up not being able to stay friends, and it was really pretty kind of devastating at the time. And but also, like, I had this overwhelming calm that this is the right thing to do. Like, I need to actually fucking stand up for myself in this relationship. You know, I was able to be myself in other relationships as I grew, but for this particular one, I wasn't. I was still, you know, the person that I was when I met her at, you know, 19 years old, you know, like, and I was here, you know, much, much, much older, 20 years later, and, you know, struggling to be who I wanted to be because, you know, we had constructed this identity of as friends, you know. So
I think you guys are hitting upon a very critical point, is that people that know you over a period of time sometimes put you in a box of who it is that they know you to be. As you continue to grow and evolve, they may not be exposed to all of those changes, and therefore continue to put you in that box of where you used to be 10 years ago. I'm curious, how have you guys dealt with that? Is it always separation and, well, now this person's I'm no longer friends with them? Or do you spend time trying to, as Lance said, sort of reintroduce yourself?
You know, one of the things Lance said is he didn't give them fair warning, right? So there's a way that, like, sometimes you just start acting, you just start behaving a different way because that's what's making you comfortable. And then you have the awareness to look back and say, well, I just jumped out of that box, you know, like a jumping out of a cake, you know, like they put you in the box and there was a little bit of enabling, right? There's a little bit of like, okay, I'm in that box too, right? Like, I know you were putting me in that box, but I've also like enabled it in a way. Like, I stayed in the box because that was the construct of our relationship and that was comfortable for both of us, you know. And then you have choices, like, do I crawl out of the box? Do I burst out? Do I dance out of the box? You know, like, how do you get out of the box? And you know, you know, for this particular relationship, it turned hostile. The person was like, you know, you set the box on fire. As you exited, you know, you started a dumpster fire and I hate you for it, you know, like, and so, you know, that's one scenario where you do have to separate yourself, you know. But I think when you're not in the extremes, it is important to be reflective of what their experience is and what, you know, you're bringing to the table, right? You know, when Oscar left the residential treatment facility and he started kind of rejoined our family, that's our eldest son. We had time with therapists to over a year to help redefine our relationships and our family and figure out now that we all know what we know and we've all learned these different skills, how are we going to interact with each other? And so that was like taking the box, neatly folding it all back up, you know, and saying, okay, there's that box. it looks so nice all folded up. We're gonna put it away, and we're doing it together. And now we're gonna all go into this new, much larger, comfier, more amazing box. So there's like two different ways you could do it on the extremes, and I'm sure a bunch in the middle. But I've experienced both, and of course, the one that was far more thoughtful was far more effective.
But that really required a counselor, an outside person to be able to help you when we're navigating this with individuals on our own, and we're trying to get them to also see how it is you've evolved. For me, one of the only things that I have found that I can do is just be that new person, acknowledge the old me and the things that I've learned along the way, but also continue to demonstrate this new version or what it is that I'm working on in being, and through action, because action speaks louder than words. And so it's been interesting as I've been doing this, and even seeing people that still put me in this other box, as I start acting differently, they're like, oh, wait a minute, like she's not triggered by the same types of things. And so me being more like, okay, matter of fact, like, oh yeah, well, let's talk about that, that type of thing. They are less, they don't know what to do. Like, oh, she's not reacting the way I expected her to. Now I've sort of thrown them off their game because they don't know how to deal with it. They're expecting one reaction and they get something else, and they don't know how to handle that now.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Megan, did you experience some of that? Like, did you have an awareness of like, wow, I'm really throwing them for a loop once you started getting more comfortable? Or, how did you navigate that?
So mine is actually a little bit different, I think, in a weird way, because the person I am now that I'm like comfortable in my whatever, is who I was when I was a teenager and in my early 20s. And then in my mid 20s to I'll say my mid 30s, I was basically in a series of parallel abusive relationships. And that's what that was the box that I went into, was when I was like in those situations. And so
right.
It was almost the exact opposite, where like people were trying to coax me out of the box to be the person that I used to be. Mm-hmm. And so instead of having the experience that you and Lance had, where it's like your people were like, whoa, this is a lot different for me, and I'm not, I was used to the older. My people were like, we want the old version of you to come back because that was the better version.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I was evolving in a good way. I was devolving in a way that was like, we don't recognize this side of you. But it was almost like joining a cult, right? It was like they didn't want to abandon me because they wanted to save me. And so I was very fortunate that I didn't really lose many people. They went along the ride with me and just tried to be the support that they could be while I didn't see what was going on. And so when I finally was able to get away from that and started to heal, it was just even more support from the people who had been there all along, saying like, thank God you're finally back. Even my parents, right? They're like, finally, the girl we used to know and love. It's been a decade and we've missed you, right? So my experience was like a little bit different, I think, because I didn't evolve in a way that people were like, whoa, what's going on? I kind of circled back to who I always had been.
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen that. And I've had a little bit of that experience too, especially like with my family and my parents. They were like, no, yeah, this is you. You were like this, and Jenna had that experience too, like where she's like, no, like when I was 20, I felt this way, and I would be like, yeah, because you were 20, right? Like everything is better. And she was like, no, like I had this other like, and as she kind of worked on that, she had a similar experience as you, Megan, I think, like finding that, there was just some BS in 10-ish or 15-ish years. And some of it, and a lot of it was self-inflicted, like active participants in that, but to find kind of her way back to like her source, like who she actually is.
Yeah. I know that I experienced that as well. Like even though I had things that happened to me, I was a very outgoing individual whenever I was younger. I was very confident, and this was another fact that a lot of people don't know about me, and that my sister told me yesterday, is that for whatever reason, everybody told me that I would be the president of the United States whenever I was in elementary school, that I'd be the first female president. So, hey, it still might happen. But I was very confident. And then as time went on, I had a series of relationships that just continued to like bring me down, to make me even less, where I was focused more on this other person in my relationship and helping them and building them up and things like that, that I really lost myself. And then I had to unlearn and rediscover who I was, as well as deal with the past trauma that I really hadn't dealt with as well. And so I think that people are very secular, like we go up and down, I think, in life, in being ourselves, not being ourselves, sometimes. What do you guys think about that, as far as like a roller coaster sometimes of finding yourself and then not finding yourself?
What if yourself just changes?
That too.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to lose myself ever again. So I'm not looking for, if that's how it goes, I'm not looking forward to that type of roller coaster. But I do think like I'm going to look at it or try to manifest it as, of course I'm going to change as I grow, and as I learn.
Yeah.
And, as life happens. But for me, I'm no longer I'm no longer satisfied with a status quo, right? Like, so whatever I'm doing next has to be to the next level, like not necessarily like, and the next level might be, this is what's healthier for me, or this is what's, feels better. Like, but I want so hard not to lose myself, because I work so hard to get comfortable with who I am and to recognize things, and then to really feel out and figure out what my values are. And now that I have them, like I don't want to ever lose them again.
Sounds like staying in the driver's seat is important, right? I mean, we can't be in the passenger seat complaining about how somebody else is driving our life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Exactly, Lance.
So I want to pull up a couple of comments, and then I want to end things talking about positive impacts of being our authentic self. So Maya said, I always resonated with I'm either too much or I'm not enough. And so I think she was resonating with what you were saying. And then navigating the effective communication road is complex. So
it sure is.
I want to end things with maybe a personal story or an experience where you were standing in your truth and it had a positive impact on your life or a relationship. Anybody want to start?
Go ahead, Megan. I have to think how far deep I want to go into this.
Oh boy.
Deep.
Okay.
Deep, badass.
I think for me, this sounds so like almost trite, but it's really truly been life-changing for me, and it's my LinkedIn journey. And I know that I know that sounds weird, right? That sounds like so lame, like, oh, social media, but like putting myself out there in a real authentic way created so many genuine, true, authentic relationships, Lance being one of them, that like the connections are so real and so deep and so supportive that they surpass relationships that like real life relationships with people that I've known for decades, right? And I think part of it goes back to what we were talking about a little bit ago, which is the safety and security of it starting as strangers on the internet. And so feeling more comfortable and more able to be a little bit more raw and vulnerable and real, which deepened those connections. And then when you've got somebody like Lance, for example, on the other side of that, who's equally willing to do it and get in there with you and be real and authentic, you can really forge true supportive relationships. And Lance is just one of many. I feel so incredibly fortunate and blessed and grateful that I was like, that I put myself out there and that I didn't stop, because I have met so many amazing, amazing people that it's been truly life-changing. And like Cate, to your point, like I totally respect that you can recognize your own bandwidth and you're like, I'm full with my cup. I'm kind of the opposite. I'm like, I feel like I've been surrounding myself with like superficial relationships that are not like, and they're fine, and I'm not gonna like ditch them, but like I will always find room for in my life for like people that really want to be real and genuine and authentic and supportive and go deep with them.
Yeah.
And like, again, Lance is one of them. He's the easiest one for me to talk about because he's, you know, right here with me. But like Josh Luker is another one, right? Like we're constant, we text all day long, every single day, Josh and Goose and I, right? And it's like, there's so, Jess and Jen, I'm going to talk to them in Emotional Bungee Jumpers later today, right? It's like they're these people, and it's like I will always find time for them, and I will set aside 15-year-long in-person relationships that are still superficial and surface level to take a call from Lance.
Oh.
And so I know that sounds lame, right? I know I'm like, with social media friends, but like that's my authentic answer. That's my authentic answer.
I love it. And I don't think it's, I know that there's a stigma, right? There's a stigma with like, you know, internet friends versus real life friends. And I've navigated this with parenting my kids, like, you know, as well. Like, you know, we have a reality that we still have to participate in. But it's just the same as like we work at a remote, you know, our workforce is remote, and you do form deeper relationships with people, or just as deep as you can, you know, and there's no stigma to it. Oh, I work with them, you know, but they're a stranger before you met them, right? They're an internet stranger. You know, so I love that. And I think it's not about whether they're in real life or they're not. It's about the vulnerability and the deepness, right? That you were able to get to, because you were safe to do so, right? You felt supported to do so, and that and you can do that in real life too. It's just, it is a little bit harder when you have this whole baggage of surface level shit, you know, like to try to all of a sudden change the script and get vulnerable and real.
Yeah.
Boom. And for me, I think it's having the resilience to pop my head up from my normal existence before, take some shots from people, and stay there. And then a bunch of people pulled me up, kind of the same way that Megan was talking about. These are people that I didn't know. I mean, and you know, they're all trying to help me better my life and do better things for my family. And that's insane to think about it. Like I just talked to one of my buddies, Chris, that I met on LinkedIn, and he's you know, trying to get me into some investments and some other things that he's been doing and doing well in, and just trying to teach me. And I'm like, where the fuck does that happen? Like,
Right.
That's not my life. That's not the life that I live. And everybody is constantly trying to level each other up, and that's the environment that I've always longed for.
Yeah.
With a lot of my friends, as soon as you try to change the script a little bit, they're trying to drag you back down because it's a reflection of them not making a move or not making a change. And I'm free of that. Like I'm free of that environment. Like you said, superficial friends, they knew, you know, whatever, family friends at that point, but I'm not going to go to them with an idea or a problem or something that I'm working through, because we don't have that. I'm not even going to say anymore. Maybe we never did. Right? A lot of it was, I call it like school friends. When it's convenient and you're in the same class, you're best friends. As soon as there's any type of barrier to getting in touch with each other or hanging out, you're not doing it. And I think that's a big difference. Like Megan and I met for breakfast last weekend. last weekend, and it was the bomb. And like I have people that live 10 minutes away that I'm like, nah, I'm good. I already ate. Yeah, so I think it's just surrounding yourself with people that are honestly have your best interest at heart.
Yes. And it doesn't have to be a huge group, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's the other thing. Like, when I say my cup is full, I have 3 friends, like in my community. And then I have my work people and my social media people. And there's a lot of those. And I invest deeply in those relationships, but in my real life, I have Chuck, Rachel, and Ori. Like, those are the people that I feel like I can be comfortable with outside of my family. And, that's it. Like, and that is, I'm full. Like, I can't, I can't invest more because I like, to be that deep with people, it takes a lot of energy. It's, like, to have this deep relationship with the people I work with or the people I connect with on BOYBAS, that's a lot.
Yeah. Meg and I connected with what you said a lot just because I met my husband on the internet, and I work for 100% remote company. I have individuals that I have never met that I work with in person. So it's not strange to me to have relationships over Zoom, over FaceTime, over all of those types of things. And then as Cate and I started BOYBAS and also getting further involved in the No BS tribe, I have continued to develop more and more authentic relationships that actually fill my heart, because that's ultimately what I'm looking for, is more authenticity from people versus the superficial. Like I even complained about that years ago. Like, I was like, I just want a best friend that is authentic, that I can like be fully who I am. And then Cate and I continued to develop a relationship where I really felt like I have someone now that I can tell anything to. And so when you start to get that with people, it really allows you to be able to feel more at home with yourself. And then as I've continued to work with other individuals like Jesse and Jen, Bruce, just having other conversations with people that I really just enjoy their vulnerability, and that they're also figuring themselves out, and also wanting to help other people as well. That to me is what I love the most, is just helping people overall and just finding who it is that they are, and to identify their self-limiting beliefs and getting rid of that shit.
Right.
That's what I love the most. And so for me, I would say the most positive story that I have was I was having dinner with an executive that is like way above me in the
In a large corporate.
in a business environment, and they told me that they were enamored by me, in me being authentic in what it is that I was doing, and they were trying to figure out how they could do that themselves. And I was like, whoa, like that's weird to me, but that's pretty damn cool as well. And so we just have this connection, and it's been really cool to just continue to build that type of relationship, and understand that someone that you also admire also admires you. And so
That's badass.
I know.
Super badass.
I see what you did there. I see what you did there.
Ron has a really cute comment, like, that I love. He doesn't get as much interaction from his staff, but like when Megan or Lance comments or likes his post, it lifts him up knowing that he has, some LinkedIn friends. Like,
that's awesome.
I feel the same way.
Yeah. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us today. And I loved this conversation. I love this topic in general. So thank you, Lance, for bringing it up and suggesting it, and also suggesting to have Megan join. And Megan and Lance, I do have space for more authentic friendships. So with that, let's find more time. And by the way, I will be on the bungee jumpers call if you're going to be there at 3:00 today.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm bringing a coworker because I won my challenge last time, and I plan to win again this week, by the way. So I'm looking to bring more people into the bungee jumpers. So, and if you want to know more about what that is, let me know. So everyone, thank you for joining us today. And Cate, as always, thank you so much for co-hosting with me and just being an amazing person. And Megan and Lance, I look forward to developing stronger relationships with both of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
Yeah, I love it. And we should have you guys back. You should come again. I mean, I just love these panels. I want to switch them up and, like, in a year from now have, a new topic, because when we end, it always feels like it goes so fast and I haven't heard enough, like I want to hear more from you all.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Have an amazing weekend. And we will also see you again next week as we talk about consent, which should be quite the interesting topic.
Oh, man.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Badass song.